go off.
Pablo would always be indebted to his father for teaching him to draw as a child. But as his son flourished, Jose was left to face the fact that his own prospects as a painter had fallen flat.
And I always feel that a lot of Picasso's ambition and drive to become the greatest painter in the world came from the fact that he had to exorcise his father's appalling failure. I think that this is at the root of Picasso's determination to become a better draftsman than anybody, to become the greatest painter in the world.
When he was 13, Pablo started painting in oil. He made portraits of his mother, his sisters, and his aunts, and of his beloved but despairing father.
The first painting of his father showed him quite depressed. His portraits, they are quite psychological portraits, but very acute.
Pablo's first taste of romance came when he was 13. He became smitten with a girl, Ángeles Méndez, and his feelings for her ignited his creativity. In his sketchbook, he depicted her as an angel flanked by cupids.
Eroticism has always gone hand in hand with the work of Picasso. When he met this girl, his work becomes inspired by his erotic feelings.
Pablo was 13 in 1895 when his family moved to Barcelona in northern Spain. The city's industrial economy was booming. But the prosperity also brought strikes, riots, and violent protests across the city. For adolescent Pablo, Barcelona was an awakening.
His adolescent unrest coincides with the unrest in Barcelona. He arrived in Barcelona at a moment of great upheaval. The sociological and social climate of Barcelona is a springboard for Picasso's nature.
Don Jose began teaching at the prestigious School of Fine Arts. He was eager to show off his son's talent. The drawings Pablo submitted in his entrance exam took him straight to the advanced class.
For anyone who has spent any time around art schools, what is most remarkable about Picasso's early work is the unhesitating facility with which he applied himself to whatever subjects came his way. It's not something that can be taught.
Picasso's talent astounded his classmates, who were older and far more sophisticated. After classes, they introduced Pablo to the cafes where writers and artists gathered. Political talk in Barcelona had begun to turn toward anarchy. Anarchists called for the abolition of all government. Drawing on this, progressive artists railed against tradition in art and called for demolition of the status quo. They stunned Picasso with their daring ideas. Pablo's classmates also directed his attention to a more established, if less distinguished, side of Barcelona. The red light district, the Barrio Chino. The carnal scenes made a deep impression on Picasso and inspired his art for the rest of his life. As Pablo's immense talent became more obvious, Jose decided he belonged in a more distinguished academy, this time in Spain's true art capital, Madrid. So in 1897, for the first time, the 16-year-old Pablo was on his own. He now stood face to face with the masterworks of Goya, Velázquez, and El Greco. But Madrid lacked the vibrance and modernity of Barcelona, and the rigid atmosphere at the Academy left Picasso feeling stifled and bored. He was miserable.
Academic painting was dead for him. He could be a master of academic painting, but he knew that it had nothing more to do with the life he lived.
Picasso was a restless child in a way, but also an adult artist in single pursuit of his vision. He wrote to a friend back in Barcelona about something he was hoping to create. Nobody else has ever done anything half so shocking as my drawing is going to be. You'll see. By 1898, Pablo felt nothing but contempt for the Academy and everything it stood for. And he realized that his own father was a hopeless victim of this tired tradition. Pablo became determined not to follow him and dropped out of the Academy. Rebellion gave him a new bravado. He no longer wanted just to outdo his father. Picasso told a friend, "In art, one has to kill one's father." Pablo, now 17 and more defiant than ever, went home to Barcelona. To pay his rent, he did commercial work, posters for carnivals and magazine illustrations. Pablo and his friends drank and argued the night away at the cafe called Els Quatre Gats, the Four Cats, headquarters for the city's avant-garde. The cafe atmosphere was heady, with new ideas from Paris and abroad. By day, Picasso sketched constantly. And in early 1900, the 18-year-old, drawn here in a self-portrait, mounted his first serious exhibition. His friends helped him hang a series of unframed portraits with tacks. The critics came, but their reviews were harsh. One accused Picasso of being uneven and sloppy. But critical success was just around the corner. Shortly after the show, he got news that one of his paintings had been chosen for the Spanish pavilion at the World's Fair, to be held in Paris later that year. In October 1900, just before his 19th birthday, Pablo and a friend left for Paris. Not only would his work be seen by thousands, he was on his way to greet the new century in the most modern city in Europe.
Breakfast with the Arts will continue in a moment with Pablo Picasso, A Primitive Soul.
When you have money problems, just going to the mailbox can be frightening. It's the same when the phone rings. You know it's another creditor. I thought bankruptcy was the only way out. Then I called Ameridebt.
Every day, Ameridebt helps more people with money problems. We're a nonprofit organization offering free consultations to consumers seeking to eliminate their debt.
Now my balances are dropping, and I only have one small monthly payment.
Call this number regardless of your situation. Ameridebt, helping America get out of debt.
Could you hold it a second while I reload?
Antietam National Battlefield.
This is going to be such a great shot. Say cheese.
One of the many authentic historic treasures you'll discover in Maryland. For a vacation the whole family will treasure, call 1-800-MD-IS-FUN and ask for your free Maryland vacation guide, Destination Maryland. It has everything you need to enjoy Maryland's world-famous sites and attractions year-round. Also, ask for the special free stuff from the Free State Coupon Book. Call now and receive a special edition print from Antietam National Battlefield. 1-800-MD-IS-FUN.
Experience the treasures of Maryland. Call for your free vacation guide. Maryland, welcome.
I don't want to swim the English Channel. I don't want to take kickboxing. All I want are mornings where arthritis pain doesn't stop me from getting together with my friends for class.
Vioxx is here, a prescription medicine for osteoarthritis pain. With one little pill a day, Vioxx can provide powerful 24-hour relief of pain and stiffness. Vioxx specifically targets only the COX-2 enzyme, a key source of arthritis pain. People with allergic reactions such as asthma to aspirin or other arthritis medicines should not take Vioxx. In rare cases, serious stomach problems such as bleeding can occur without warning. Tell your doctor if you have liver or kidney problems. For more information, talk to your doctor about once daily Vioxx for the relief of osteoarthritis pain, and you may be able to plan your day around your life instead of your pain. Ask your doctor if Vioxx is right for you. Vioxx for everyday victories.
Law and Order ups the ante.
You're in a death penalty case.
With 2 heart-stopping episodes.
I don't want to die!
2 victims, 2 trials, but 1 truth.
You're under arrest for the rape of Lisa Wesley?
On back-to-back episodes of Law and Order, tonight on A&E. On the city block between right and wrong.
He got me to change Frank's record. That's how I wound up at this bar.
Where the bright lights fade and the truth gets blurred.
What happened?
Cut the crap. Guilty or not guilty.
When you've hit the dead end of the legal system.
Do you hear me? I will pay.
Why can't it be easy?
You've found 100 Center Street.
My intentions are completely dishonorable.
I will not be intimidated.
After one night, it gets to you. 100 Center Street. An all-new season begins October 8th on A&E.
When it comes to babies, appearances can be deceiving. Look at this brainwave. Very active. And this one, not doing much. You make the difference by reading, singing, and talking from birth. Studies prove it. An early start. Now that's smart.
Breakfast with the Arts continues now with Pablo Picasso, A Primitive Soul.
Paris, 1900. In the shadow of the tallest man-made structure on Earth, people gathered from around the world to take a peek into the next century at the World's Fair. And it was that October, shortly before his 19th birthday, that Picasso laid eyes on the City of Light for the first time. Picasso was virtually penniless, but his companion, Carlos Casagemas, had both money and contacts. They borrowed a friend's flat amid the cafes, nightclubs, and artist studios in the scruffy neighborhood of Montmartre. In this painting, Picasso documented his group of Spanish friends, who spoke barely any French, huddling together in Montmartre. Paris was a world away from the buttoned-up society of Andalusia. Picasso reveled in the sheer lustiness of the city. But he felt acutely the condescension of Parisians towards Spaniards.
He was not only a Spaniard in Paris, and the Spanish accents looked down upon by elegant people who speak French with a certain elegance, particularly the French. But he not only was a Spaniard, but he came from Malaga, where even the Spaniards look down from people like Malaga. You know, they look upon him as sort of being lower-grade Hispanics.
Picasso and Casagemas met a group of flirtatious models who spoke a few words of Spanish, and each paired off with a girlfriend. Here, Picasso sketched himself with his girlfriend Odette, and Casagemas with the girl who stole his heart, Germaine. To celebrate Picasso's 19th birthday, they all went to see his painting at the exposition. Picasso's contribution, which he later painted over, may have been at the cutting edge in Barcelona, but in Paris, it barely stood out. It was a humbling experience, but Picasso also took it as a challenge. Gallery after gallery was filled with the work of the top French painters. For the first time, he saw the luminous colors of the Impressionists, Monet, Renoir, and Degas, all but bursting out of their frames. He was dazzled. At night, Pablo and his friends went to the Moulin Rouge and Moulin de la Galette, steamy dance halls made famous in the paintings of Renoir and Toulouse-Lautrec. In a direct challenge to these Parisian giants, Picasso painted his own version.
In that painting, he's going directly into competition with Toulouse-Lautrec and Renoir. They both painted the Moulin de la Galette, and they'd both done spectacular big paintings of the crowded music hall with these dancers and can-can and all the rest of it. And I think Picasso, at this very young age, pits himself against the great modern masters.
One of the most progressive collectors in France bought the painting immediately, and 3 pastels had sold within days of his arrival. He was encouraged. If his work continued to sell, he could move to Paris permanently. But for now, Picasso and his friend headed back to Spain. Casagemas couldn't stand being away from Germaine and dashed back to Paris to propose marriage. She, however, didn't share his enthusiasm, and in February 1901, Picasso was in Madrid when he got terrible news. Casagemas, lovesick over Germaine, had shot himself in the head. It happened in the middle of a Paris café in front of a group of friends, including Germaine.
When Picasso, who was in Madrid at the time, heard this, he was absolutely destroyed, because he felt that if he'd stayed on with Casagemas and seen him through these crises, that he would still be alive.
In the very midst of Picasso's horror and guilt over his friend's suicide, came good news from Paris. The distinguished art dealer Ambroise Vollard had seen his work and was offering to give him a one-man show in June.
Vollard had been the dealer of Cézanne and Gauguin, and, great artists of the late 19th century, post-impressionists. He was taking on an unknown Picasso.
Picasso moved back to Paris and took up residence in Casagemas' studio, where the rent was already paid. The show was only a month away, and he had nowhere near enough work to fill the gallery. Picasso spent the next 30 days working at an exhausting pace. Some days he turned out as many as 3 paintings. Pablo now dropped his father's very common last name, Ruiz, and began signing his work under just his mother's maiden name, Picasso. And as if to announce himself to Paris, he painted a self-portrait for the show called Yo Picasso, meaning I, Picasso. The show was a shining success. One critic placed Picasso at the forefront of what he called the Spanish invasion. Another called him a brilliant newcomer. Over half the items sold, and Picasso succeeded in making a name for himself. He was not yet 20 years old. One small painting in the show discreetly betrayed a secret about Picasso's love life. He inscribed it to Germaine, the woman whose indifference drove his friend Casagemas to suicide. Only weeks after he returned to Paris, Picasso had begun an affair of his own with his friend's beloved Germaine. Now, living in the apartment of his dead friend and sleeping with the woman who had broken his friend's heart, Picasso found himself haunted by the lifeless face of Casagemas, and it inspired him to begin painting in blue.
After a few months, he does 3 paintings of Casagemas' head, one with a very Van Gogh-like, with a canvas, with the rays of paint going out from the canvas, with the bullet hole. Another one, which is virtually the first Blue Period painting, and Picasso maintained the sadness of the Blue Period stemmed from Casagemas' suicide.
Picasso became profoundly depressed. Again, he was broke. He had run through his profits from the sales at Vollard's, and collectors found the blue paintings too grim. His dream of conquering Paris now felt like a defeat.
During the Blue Period, when he portrays lonely women, I think it's because deep inside he feels sad and lonely, and he transfers this. He identifies with this marginal world, but is reflecting on his inner world too.
Now 20 years old, Picasso faced an uncertain future. He began another self-portrait. In it, he is bearded and huddled in a coat, looking chilled, hungry, and restless. In January 1902, Picasso wired his father for money and went home to Barcelona. These were dark days for Picasso, but the success of his Paris show had given him a glimmer of the recognition he knew he deserved. Being home in Spain made Picasso more determined than ever to go back to Paris and conquer the art capital once and for all.
Breakfast with the Arts will continue in a moment with Pablo Picasso, A Primitive Soul.
Wait a minute, not on colors.
But look at this stain.
You need Clorox too.
That's me. What Clorox bleach does for whites, I do for colors. Cool. Thanks.
That's my Clorox too.
Clorox 2, the Clorox bleach for colors.
A&E and Lowe's Home Improvement can help transform your home into your dream house. Just watch House Beautiful on A&E. Sponsored in part by Lowe's Home Improvement Warehouse, the first stop on the way to a beautiful house.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me, 'cause you heard the designers I'm angry. 5 days since you laughed at me, saying that you never come back and see me. Yesterday, you've forgiven me, but it'll still be today till I say I'm sorry. Like vanilla, it's the finest of the flavors. And see the show, 'cause then you know the current goers at my door, and it's so dangerous, you'll have to sign a waiver. I have a tendency to wear my mind up my sleeve. I had this reason to say it's been 1 week since you looked at me. Dropped your eyes to the sides and said I'm sorry.
Let the sun shine for me. Thank you. I love to sing. You know, the other day, a young kid came up to me and said, "Hey, Tony, what do you need to make it in show business?" And I tell them, you have to have a really big head.
Short Shorts, only on the Biography Channel. Call your cable or satellite company to get the Biography Channel.
It's staying focused on the ultimate goal. It's never wavering from a rigorous, time-tested investment strategy. It's knowing a highly disciplined approach can result in a winning performance. The American Century Value Funds. It's what we call American dedication. American Century Investments. Contact us or your investment professional.
Now I had the time of my life,
and I owe it all to you. Sandals, voted the world's best all-inclusives, is a paradise as romantic as the rhythms of the sea. 10 magnificent resorts nestled on 4 exotic islands. Dive into waters as pure and blue as the Caribbean skies above, and stroll on sand as soft and smooth as a soothing caress. Ride the wind, dance on the beach, indulge in infinite pampering and endless pleasures. Escape to this world of dreams. Sandals All-Inclusive Resorts, where love is all you need because everything else is included. Book now and save $555. For more information, call your travel agent or 1-800-SANDALS.
Breakfast with the Arts continues now with Pablo Picasso, A Primitive Soul.
At the beginning of the 20th century, Paris reigned supreme as the capital of all the art world. The city was on the brink of an artistic revolution, and the Bohemian district of Montmartre led the way in ideas. It was here that writers and painters sought refuge from Paris's high prices. And it was here that Picasso came, bursting with hope, when he returned to France in 1904 for good. Picasso's French was still poor, which left him open to mockery from Parisians. Picasso did not like being mocked. On the street in Montmartre, Picasso noticed a voluptuous, dark-haired beauty. One day as she walked past, he thrust a kitten toward her. She laughed. Her name was Fernande Olivier, and she worked as a painter's model. Picasso invited her to his studio. She became his lover, and in a year's time, she moved in with him. Picasso was entranced by the sultry Fernande, but he was intensely possessive, and still full of Spanish machismo, he felt that she couldn't be trusted.
The Andalusian society was the most backward, in a way, in its treatment of women. Picasso once said to one of his mistresses, "I wish you'd wear black, cover yourself up, and so men can't have you with their eyes."
To keep her from leaving the studio, Picasso stole Fernande's shoes. Sometimes he kept her locked in. But Fernande put up with Picasso's mercurial nature. She said although his jealousy frightened her, other times he was tender, kind, and amorous. Late at night, after his friends had said their goodbyes, Picasso would go back to his studio and work. He had begun to work on a large project. It took 9 months, and in late 1905 he completed this masterpiece of what would become known as his Rose period, for its soft tones of pink and red. It was called Family of Saltimbanque, meaning strolling acrobats. Although Picasso distrusted dealers, he knew he needed them. But he preferred to rely on friends to find buyers for his paintings. Through one such friend, he came to the attention of Gertrude Stein and her brother Leo, wealthy Americans whose walls already bore several works by Paul Cézanne and Henri Matisse.
Well, Leo and Gertrude Stein were of crucial importance to Picasso, to Matisse, to a number of the major artists of the 20th century. They were willing to buy pictures for reasonable prices when most people were not willing. So they brought many other artists to a larger intellectual sphere that made them not just individual artists of merit, but vanguard figures in 20th century art.
Soon the Steins owned 7 Picassos and began paying him a regular stipend toward more. The Steins introduced Picasso to the only other painter he would ever consider a true rival, Henri Matisse. That year, at the annual Fall Art Exhibition, the Salon d'Automne, Matisse's radiantly colored paintings became the talk of the art world. Picasso envied not only Matisse's success, but his obvious originality. Matisse had already achieved the very thing Picasso sought to do, to defy classical tradition. This painting, Bonheur de Vivre, or Joy of Life, finished in 1906, was Matisse's crowning achievement. The two painters would see each other at the Steins' Saturday night soirees, and soon began to pay secret visits to each other's studios. Each encounter with Matisse fanned the flames of Picasso's jealousy.
Suddenly there's Matisse, who's always been there, and now he's getting bigger and bigger, and Matisse is older than him. Matisse has a lot of panache, his social cachet. He can talk for hours intelligently in the salon about painting, whereas Picasso can virtually grunt in French. And everyone is now saying that Matisse is the great painter in Paris. And Picasso was livid, absolutely livid. So what he decided was he was going to break this chorus of approval for Matisse by going far beyond him. Matisse was considered more avant-garde than Picasso at the time, remember. Picasso was in the Rose period. His stuff was lovely, it was lyrical, it was eloquent, it was elegant, it was tasteful. And Matisse was breaking many molds. And so Picasso, deep within him, he said, I have a vision that is wilder and crazier and stronger and uglier than Matisse.
For his subject, Picasso drew on the brothels he visited as a young man.
He had to hunker down and come up with something really shocking, really progressive, really iconoclastic, which would sort of make mincemeat of Matisse. And so he shut himself away, did hundreds and hundreds of drawings. He worked on it in the spring and summer. It was a very hot summer. So you just have to think of Picasso in this cellar, in this ramshackle building, stark naked, with these women who were tall, much taller than himself, painting away at his own terrible, hellish whorehouse in order to turn himself into the great revolutionary breakthrough painter.
He had recently been to see the new collection of African art at the Trocadero Museum. The simple forcefulness of these figures inspired him to make something equally rough and raw.
Picasso was always a thief. He started off by stealing the sacred fire of Spanish religious art. Then there was the Iberian phase, when he gets inspiration from primitive Spanish Stone Age sculptures. He then turns to tribal art. He sees himself as a shaman.
So like a shaman, Picasso summoned these ancient spirits. He distorted faces, simplified lines, and twisted shapes. And in this painting, which came to be known as Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, Picasso sought to forge a link between tribal art and modern art.
For him, the Demoiselle was the way to put in his painting what he had learned from Gauguin and also what he had learned from Cézanne. But he wanted to make a primitivist painting, but also a painting against what he saw of the civilization, of the life. And that's why he conceived to paint a scene of bordel.
Picasso drew on his personal experiences from the brothels of Barcelona to his now faltering relationship with Fernand. And he created a sort of primitive icon of the terror posed to man by women.
Picasso saw women as closer to the secrets of the universe than men, and immensely dangerous. He had immensely deep reactions to women. He adored them, and he also detested them.
Picasso would tease Fernand that she was one of the prostitutes in his brothel scene. After 5 years of idolizing her, he had begun to belittle her. For the first time, Picasso used the canvas to show contempt for the woman in his life. Picasso never expected the conservative French public to understand Les Demoiselles. He felt certain, however, that his friends, the painters and poets of the avant-garde, would appreciate it. But one by one, they came and stood before the painting in horrified silence.
Even his artist friends didn't understand it at all. It was obviously so different from what people thought was beautiful, desirable, understandable. It's hard to explain now how extraordinarily different it looked, because we are all used to seeing so many reproductions. But at the time, I think it was just totally incomprehensible.
Picasso had created the most innovative work since the Italian Renaissance. But for now, he turned the painting to the wall. It would be nearly 10 years before he showed the painting to anyone again. But the significance of Picasso's breakthrough was not lost on everyone. Late in 1907, Georges Braque was a well-known follower of Matisse, but on seeing Picasso's new work, he defected. Picasso and Braque found that they shared a vision. They saw that the world had changed more in the last decade than it had in centuries. Life in the new era was mechanized, industrialized, psychoanalyzed. Cinema was replacing theater, and photography threatened to make much of painting obsolete. Picasso and Braque were tearing the old rules of painting to pieces, literally fragmenting the traditional image. They started with landscapes. This one by Braque. This one by Picasso. Together, the two envisioned a way to break down the principle of perspective that had ruled painting since the Renaissance, in which objects were seen receding into the distance. Instead, they brought their subjects right up to the surface. They showed that seen through the human eye, which flits from object to object, the world is a fragmentary place, made up of glimpsed reflections, splinters of light, and surfaces that are not smooth. Together, Picasso and Braque were inventing Cubism.
His collaboration with Braque, of course, is the single most significant event in his entire career. Cubism remained the high point of Picasso's originality, and the consequence was all of the rest of 20th century painting was transformed by it.
Picasso's collaboration with Braque was flourishing, but his relationship with Fernand went sour. They had begun to bicker constantly, and she called Picasso a precocious child. In 1911, she began having an affair and asked her friend Eva Guel to keep an eye on Picasso, but Eva double-crossed Fernand. She and Picasso began an affair of their own. In a matter of months, he and Fernand had parted, and Eva had taken over as the new woman in Picasso's life. Eva, a delicate, stylish girl, took good care of Picasso. He was 30 now, and he believed that he had found the love of his life, the girl he wanted to marry. In his work, he painted references to her as Ma Jolie, or My Pretty. By now, his blue pictures had caught on with collectors, and prices for his rose pictures had begun to soar. Picasso was 32 in early 1914, when his painting of 9 years earlier, The Family of Saltimbanque, was auctioned for over 12,000 francs, more than double the already high prices brought by Gauguin and Van Gogh at the same sale. But Picasso would never be able to share this success with his father. In May 1913, he got news his father was dying. He rushed to Spain for a last word with him.
He hated what his son was doing. He felt that Picasso was a great disappointment to him. He thought he was going to be a great academic painter, making lots of money and painting religious pictures and salon pictures. And there he goes ahead and becomes a cubist.
Picasso was deeply saddened by his father's death, knowing that in spite of all his father had given him, they ended up unable to understand each other. José lived his whole life in awe of tradition, and it was beyond his comprehension that his son was not simply breaking the rules, he was inventing new ones. Pablo Picasso would become the most famous name in 20th century art.
Breakfast with the Arts will continue in a moment with Pablo Picasso, A Primitive Soul.
There is a vacation place of castles and magic, of wonder and discovery. A place where great adventures really happen and great mists meet the heavens. Ah, but this is not a land far, far away. It is Asheville, North Carolina, and she is telling your story. Call for a free visitor's guide.
Hello, Mrs. Lindsay. William?
Hello, Stephen.
You're not by any chance computer shopping, are you?
Mm-hmm. If I can get some help.
Well, right now, you can get a complete Dell system with an Intel Pentium 3 processor, plus all of this for just $7.99.
Really?
She's intrigued. Excellent. Because right now, it comes with your choice of a free CD burner or DVD upgrade. And as far as service and support, Dell's won more awards than any other PC company in the last 5 years. It's real easy. Just call or go online. Tell them what you want, and right to your front door comes America's favorite PC.
Thanks, Stephen.
Now you can get a Dell desktop with an Intel Pentium 3 processor and 6 months of America Online Internet service for just $7.99. Call or go online today and get a free CD burner or DVD upgrade. There's great deals on notebooks, too.
Dude, you're getting a Dell.
Easy to buy, easy to own, easy as Dell.
Hi, I'm Alice Cooper. Join me for the hardest-hitting documentary you'll ever see, The Wrecking Ball.
September 16th on A&E.
Finally, a documentary that really breaks it down.
Hi, I'm Rick from Empire Glass. Let Empire Glass replace your cracked windshield and will now pay up to $100 of your comprehensive insurance deductible. And will now give you 24 free dinners to Sherry's, the Northwest's #1 family restaurant and bakery, with any windshield replacement. So for the highest in quality windshields, including up to $100 off your comprehensive deductible and 24 free dinners to Sherry's, call Empire Glass today at 251-9881. When you think glass, think Empire.
Breakfast with the Arts continues now with Pablo Picasso, A Primitive Soul.
In 1914, Germany declared war on France, and the spirit of Paris, the city of light, turned dark. Both of Picasso's closest painter friends, Georges Braque and André Derain, willingly joined the fight, as did his poet friend Guillaume Apollinaire. To the disappointment of many, Picasso did not volunteer.
Because Spain was neutral, Picasso didn't have to fight in World War I. But since he lived in Paris for a lot of the war, he had a terrible time because there were women who used to hand out white feathers to young men who were not in uniform. And he was a recipient of a lot of abuse for this.
Shortly after the war began, in the summer of 1914, Picasso's lover Eva Guel fell seriously ill and had to be hospitalized. He made long treks across Paris each day to see her. He was alarmed at how quickly she deteriorated. He wrote to Gertrude Stein, "My life is hell." Eva died on December 14, 1915, of cancer. In his next letter to Gertrude, he wrote, "My poor Eva is dead. This has been a great sorrow to me, and I know that you will miss her. She was always so good to me." Picasso's grief and the tragic mood of wartime Paris threatened to engulf the artist. But he soon found an escape. In late 1915, he met the poet Jean Cocteau, who described Picasso's presence as being like an electrical charge. Cocteau asked Picasso to collaborate with him in designing a ballet in Rome. In February 1917, Picasso joined Cocteau and the Ballet Russe in Rome. Olga's style of living was luxurious and aristocratic, and Picasso was pleased with his new social standing. He quit the bohemian cafes. Now he and Olga spent their evenings at the opera or fancy dress parties.
He began wearing formal dinner clothes for the first time. I mean, Picasso wearing black tie is not something you find in the archives prior to the First World War. And that was a turning point.
Picasso's way of revisiting the classics was to reinvent the classics. Again, he reached deep into the past to create a new style that was utterly modern. On February 4th, 1921, Olga gave birth to a boy, Pablo. Picasso proudly marked the birth of their first child with this painting called Mother and Child. But for the ever-restless Picasso, family life and Olga's upper-class trappings had already begun to wear thin.
For a while, he went along with it, but then he just simply couldn't stand it anymore. He just got completely fed up with Olga's aspirations, and that was when he hung a sign up, "I am not a gentleman."
Picasso and Olga spent the summer of 1923 at the newly fashionable resort of Cap d'Antibes on the French Riviera. Here, frolicking among the socialites, he met a group of intellectuals known as the Surrealists, and their influence would bring about a radical leap in Picasso's art.
The Surrealists, in a way, showed him how he could include anything he wanted in his work. Painting didn't have to have any kind of traditional meaning or logic, or the imagery could be whatever he wanted to do.
Surrealism unleashed Picasso's imagination at its most outrageous, and once again, he was venturing into completely uncharted territory. Picasso wanted an escape from the marriage. In 1927, outside a Paris department store, he spotted a sensuous and athletic-looking blonde girl. He walked up to her, took her by the arm, and said, "I am Picasso. You and I are going to do great things together." Marie-Thérèse Voltaire was 17. Within a week, Picasso persuaded her to lie to her mother and spend afternoons with him.
It was a new life in his own life. But it stayed in the total secrecy, because she was, how do you say it, minor.
Picasso certainly didn't want Olga to find out. But worse still, if he was found to be corrupting a minor, he could lose his visa to live in France. Despite the need for secrecy, he couldn't resist sneaking her initials, MT, intertwined with his own, into his paintings.
She was a girl. She was 17 years old then. She always told me about my father giving her dolls, for example. He would give her these little tiny dolls, and she really liked to eat candy. And so, of course, my father was just totally delighted. Because, after all, what he had was really a woman child.
In 1928, when he and Olga spent their summer holidays here on the Atlantic coast at Dinard, Picasso brought Marie-Thérèse and put her up in a nearby pension for children. Picasso's portraits of Marie-Thérèse were the most overtly sexual work he had done to date.
The images of Marie-Thérèse are of totally passive, Zoftig woman who seems to be compliant. It's as if she had absolutely no will or mind. Body parts tend to get juggled so that sometimes breasts look like testicles, faces can look like genitals, and it's a whole fantastic way of reconstructing the body in terms of double and triple images.
He made endless studies of the placid, voluptuous Marie-Thérèse sleeping, including this painting called The Dream.
I don't know if you've ever noticed, but the head is surrounded by what appears to be a male organ. It is surrounded by a male organ. You can see my mother's breasts. My father always spoke about my mother's breasts. He would say to me, they were just like apples. You just can't imagine what breasts your mother had. They were like apples. They were stupendous.
Picasso concealed the affair for 8 years. But in 1935, the secrecy was shattered when Olga discovered that Marie-Thérèse was pregnant with Pablo's child. Enraged, Olga took Pablo and moved into a hotel. She was devastated. But Picasso thrived on the turmoil, and from it, he would create some of his most wrenching works of art.
Breakfast with the Arts will continue in a moment with Pablo Picasso, A Primitive Soul.
Nature made it. Minwax makes it beautiful with rich wood stains and long-lasting protective finishes. Turning a house into a beautiful home is as easy as turning to Minwax.
Who would like a fresher place to live? Then put that paw to work. With Fresh Step, the only paw-activated cat litter, now with 50% more odor controllers than ever before. Fresh Step, always a step ahead.
The 240 horsepower Nissan Pathfinder.
Are you tired of overnighters that don't go over well? Or extra beds that take an extra set of hands just to set up? Then the Aero Extra Bed in a Minute is your dream come true. This amazing premium quality airbed automatically inflates itself, turning any room into a bedroom in just 1 minute. There's no hand pump, no foot pump, no pumping at all. Just plug it in, push the button, and the patented built-in pump instantly inflates the Aero bed in just 1 minute. It's so easy, it even unrolls itself. So BYOB, bring your own bed on vacation, on business trips, in your camper, on your boat, or even keep a spare in your car trunk. It's like sleeping on air, anytime, anywhere, even every night. The AeroBed gives you the same comfort and support of premium mattresses at only a fraction of the cost, with luxury features like the exclusive adjustable support sleep system and the one-touch comfort control that instantly adjusts the bed from soft to firm while you stay in bed. Plus, the AeroBed deflates in about 5 seconds for easy storage, using 80% less space than a rollaway bed. The Aero Extra Bed in a Minute is non-allergenic and easy to clean. And best of all, it uses all your standard size linens. Your AeroBed comes complete with the attached electric airflow pump, the one-touch comfort controls, and patented quick-release deflation valve, all for just 4 easy payments of only $33. But listen to this. If you call within the next 30 minutes, we'll take off an entire payment. Through this special television offer, you'll receive the AeroBed for just 3 easy payments of $33. Plus, as a special bonus, we'll give you this convenient carrying bag absolutely free. Get your credit card ready and call the toll-free number on your screen now, or send check or money order to the address shown. You can get the Aero Extra Bed in a Minute sleep system for just 3 easy payments of $33, plus shipping and handling, with a full 30-day money-back guarantee. And if you call right now, we'll even give you the carrying bag absolutely free. Call the toll-free number on your screen now.
Breakfast with the Arts continues now with Pablo Picasso, A Primitive Soul.
In September 1935, when Picasso was 53, his 26-year-old mistress, Marie-Thérèse Voltaire, gave birth to a baby girl, Maya. Picasso was enchanted by his little daughter and painted whimsical, adoring portraits of her. But even this idyllic life with a lover and baby didn't stop Picasso's eye from roving. Before his daughter was a year old in 1936, Picasso met surrealist photographer Dora Maar.
Picasso was attracted to Dora because she was beautiful. She had the sort of physique that he found attractive in a woman. She spoke Spanish. They could speak Spanish together. And she was extremely intelligent. And I think all of those aspects of her personality and temperament were very appealing to him.
Picasso now had a wife and legitimate son, and a mistress and daughter. Dora became his second mistress. Picasso was remarkably untroubled by the complicated arrangement. It seemed to feed not only his ego, but his art. Picasso relished the differences between Dora and Marie-Thérèse. Physically and mentally, they were polar opposites, but they had in common their love for him. To Picasso, they were like two sides of a coin. He would often see them both the same day, and he even painted their portraits in the exact same setting, seated in the same pose. He forced them both to accept sharing him, and both became miserable to the point of desperation. Picasso used their anguish in his art. One day in 1937, the two tormented halves of Picasso's love life came crashing together. As Picasso watched, Marie-Thérèse confronted Dora. She told her to leave Picasso alone, that she, Marie-Thérèse, had his child and she was his rightful lover. The only thing Picasso could be faithful to was his art. But in 1937, Picasso became inspired by something outside his own life. Spain was being torn apart by a bloody civil war. General Francisco Franco was leading a rebellion against the democratic government, seeking to replace it with a fascist dictatorship, allied with the Nazis of Germany. On April 26, 1937, Nazi aircraft bombed the city of Guernica in support of Franco. The pictures of human carnage shocked the world. Picasso was stricken with sadness. He had been commissioned to make a huge mural for the 1937 World's Fair, and now he made the canvas a declaration of his outrage. His painting, simply titled Guernica, became the best-known artwork of the century and made Picasso a hero in the international fight against fascism. In January 1939, General Franco declared victory for fascism in Spain. Picasso vowed he would not return to Spain until the dictator was gone. As Guernica traveled around the world, it became a symbol of the war's terrible violence and a powerful weapon against the fascists in the battle for public opinion. Guernica not only represented Picasso's political awakening, but a revelation in style. He returned to a childlike simplicity and found a completely new way to heighten the emotional drama of his work.
He said once, you know, if I put an eye in the eye socket, I mean, people take the eye for granted. If I take it out of the eye socket and stick it somewhere else, then people pay more attention to it. I mean, it comes as a shock, and they see the eye anew.
He told a young artist who came to visit him in 1943 when he was 61, one must rip and tear reality. The visitor's name was Françoise Gillot, and she was 21 years old. Picasso invited her back, and she began to stop by often. One day he asked her to take her clothes off so he could see if her body corresponded with his mental image.
I lay there in his arms as he explained this point of view, and I felt that it was the beginning of something very marvelous in the true sense of the word. Even though we were very different in age, we had a marvelous understanding, a rapport a été with each other, which is astonishing because you seldom have it with anyone at all, whether your age or not your age. So it was marvelous in that sense.
Picasso and Françoise became lovers. Again, one woman was not enough for him. It would be 1945, another 2 years, before he ended his relationship with Dora.
After Picasso made it clear to her that their relationship was finished, she did have a nervous breakdown and was very, very distraught and was for a time in a sanitarium.
Dora never really recovered. Later she said, "He used me until there was nothing left of me, nothing but the hundreds of portraits of me he painted." It was true. Picasso no longer needed Dora. He had Françoise, and she too would become fuel for his art.
Breakfast with the Arts will continue in a moment with Pablo Picasso, A Primitive Soul.
Okay, which one's better, 1 or 2?
That would be 2.
Good. Now, better 1 or 2?
That would definitely be 2.
Want to see big savings on replacement contacts? Call Lens Express. You save up to 50% off the retail price for name brand contacts just like the doctor ordered, delivered to you for a fraction of the cost. And free shipping on your first order if you're a new customer. Call Lens Express. See a better way.
I don't want to swim the English Channel. I don't want to take kickboxing. All I want are mornings where arthritis pain doesn't stop me from getting together with my friends for class.
Vioxx is here, a prescription medicine for osteoarthritis pain. With one little pill a day, Vioxx can provide powerful 24-hour relief of pain and stiffness. Vioxx specifically targets only the COX-2 enzyme, a key source of arthritis pain. People with allergic reactions such as asthma to aspirin or other arthritis medicines should not take Vioxx. In rare cases, serious stomach problems such as bleeding can occur without warning. Tell your doctor if you have liver or kidney problems. For more information, talk to your doctor about once daily Vioxx for the relief of osteoarthritis pain, and you may be able to plan your day around your life instead of your pain. Ask your doctor if Vioxx is right for you. Vioxx for everyday victories.
Because you won. Because the road is unpredictable. Because laughter is contagious. From cover to cover, Biography magazine reveals why every life has a story. In the September issue, Drew Barrymore, plus profiles of Marissa Tomei, Lewis Carroll, Ruth Gruber, and much more. Biography magazine. Every life has a story. On sale now at your local newsstand.
This is Mike. Mike sells muscle cars, but despite their 4-barrel carbs, their dual overhead cams, and their V8 engines, Mike's muscle cars didn't move very fast. So Mike went on cable TV. And that, as Mike would say, put the pedal to the metal. Cable advertising. It's easy, it's affordable, it works. AT&T Media Services. Get your ads worth.
Hi, I'm Rick from Empire Glass. Let Empire Glass replace your cracked windshield and will now pay up to $100 of your comprehensive insurance deductible. And will now give you 24 free dinners to Sherry's, the Northwest's #1 family restaurant and bakery, with any windshield replacement. So for the highest in quality windshields, including up to $100 off your comprehensive deductible and 24 free dinners to Sherry's, call Empire Glass today at 251-9881. When you think glass, think Empire.
Breakfast with the Arts continues now with Pablo Picasso, A Primitive Soul.
On the 25th of August, 1944, the Allies liberated Paris from 4 brutal years of German occupation. Although all the nations allied against the Nazis were heroes in France, in the eyes of many, including Picasso, the Soviets had been the main force behind the defeat of fascism. On October 4th, 1944, Picasso, now 62, joined the Communist Party. Now Picasso was not only the most famous painter in the world, he was one of the world's most famous and wealthiest communists. And while Picasso surrounded himself with an entourage, his old rival, Henri Matisse, worked in virtual isolation in the south of France. Matisse was ill and only out of bed for an hour or two a day. In 1946, Picasso took his new lover, Françoise Gillot, to pay Matisse a visit. Matisse, looking at Françoise, was inspired to paint her portrait. He said he would make her hair dark green and her body pale blue. Picasso's jealousy was inflamed by his old rival again. He appropriated Matisse's idea and painted Françoise as the woman flower, with the body pale blue and the hair dark green. Again, with a new woman in his life, Picasso's art changed completely. Now his work took on a joy and lightness it had never had before. Françoise had an irrepressible free spirit, and in that way was very unlike his previous lovers. Picasso persuaded her that what she really needed was to have a child with him, to make her less intellectual, he said, more in touch with nature. On May 15, 1947, their son Claude was born. Picasso was amused to find that his son had a strong personality like his, and the father wasn't the only one who enjoyed inciting jealousy.
We went to visit Matisse, and I would come back very impressed, and I would say, you know, to my father and my mother, I say, you know, Matisse, you know, is a real painter. And my father would say, what about me? No, it's not the same, you know, not the same thing at all. You know, you just go and play with your things. But this is, you can see, he's a real painter. So my father would go off the wall.
In 1947, Picasso discovered the old ceramic-producing town of Vallauris in the hills above Antibes. Instantly, he was full of ideas he wanted to try in pottery. Vallauris also had another attraction. It was a Communist Party stronghold. In 1948, he and Françoise bought a house here. Vallauris felt like home to Picasso, and the townspeople loved him. Picasso was now an international superstar, a celebrity on a scale that no other painter in history had ever achieved. The Communist Party was well aware of the boost he could bring to their Cold War propaganda. In January of 1949, he created the symbol for the international peace movement, executed in lithograph, the dove.
I am in England, he said, for the second time for the Peace Congress, and I hope for success for this magnificent cause.
Picasso hated to travel, but in 1948 he boarded a plane for the first time and attended several communist-sponsored peace conferences. The following year, in 1949, Pablo and Françoise's second child was born, and they named her after the Spanish word for dove, Paloma. As the demands on Picasso's time grew, Françoise found herself shouldering the burden of his celebrity behind the scenes, maintaining the studio and taking care of their children. Picasso was continually attracting new admirers. But if they got close to him, they were bound to see another side of him, as Françoise eventually did.
He could be the most charming person you might. Otherwise, why would he have charmed so many people? So he was extremely charming, and then when he had charmed you thoroughly, then he would become nasty once in a while, or not so much nasty as cruel.
Picasso, nearing 70, showed no signs of mellowing with age. To the contrary. The summer of 1951, just 2 years after Paloma was born, he began a short-lived affair with a young woman, Geneviève Laporte, who was 23 years old. Françoise learned of the affair and told Picasso she was leaving. A large part of Picasso was still rooted in the 19th century Spain of his birth, and he wanted to have both women, as he'd always done. But Françoise wouldn't stand for it.
He did not believe I would do it. because he said, no one leaves a man like me. I said, you wait and see. But of course, after I left, he was extremely furious and kind of waged war on me for the rest of his life.
Picasso was terrified of being alone, terrified of death, and terrified of losing his power as a painter. But giving in to any one of them was something his colossal ego just could not permit. He labored on with an intensity that would have exhausted men half his age.
The winter of 1953-1954 was very hard on Picasso. He was lonely in his little house. You could have said that he could have gone to a hotel, but no, he lived alone. Those were very difficult times.
It wasn't long before a woman appeared to fill the vacancy Françoise left. Jacqueline Roch was 27 and worked in the pottery at Valoris. Picasso was struck by her resemblance to a painting by the 19th century Romantic master Eugène Delacroix, The Woman of Algiers. He made 15 paintings of his newest lover as Delacroix's harem beauty. Jacqueline moved in and offered Picasso her nearly slavish devotion, that at the same time gave her almost complete control of his life.
What Jacqueline had to offer my father was completely different than Françoise, than Dora Maar, than my mother, than Olga. She was very submissive, always calling him Monseigneur, Monseigneur. Just imagine, I would start laughing every time she called him Sir, because I thought it was very funny.
Jacqueline was a paradox. She was very submissive, very obedient, and very self-effacing at first. But my goodness, she changed, and she really took over.
Jacqueline's devotion to Picasso meant he was free to work. And work he did at an astonishing pace. Again, he had a source of youth to feed his art and to fend off the fearful consciousness of his advancing years.
Yo creo que Picasso, si no hubiera creado,
If Picasso had not kept creating, he would have felt old. To create was to feel alive. It was a way of fighting old age, creating more and more. He worked incessantly, sort of like a struggle against death. This was obvious.
And as he fought to keep old age and death at bay, Picasso set out to have a dialogue with one of his great Spanish masters and to turn a Velázquez into a Picasso.
One of the few times I saw the black side of Picasso was when he was working on the Velázquez variations and Las Meninas, and he was really fighting with the greatest Spanish painter. And we could hear him stamping around, easels being wheeled around, things falling on the floor, growls. And Jacqueline said, you know, it's going to go on like this until he's finished this series of paintings.
Picasso continued turning out art at an unbelievable pace. But people were beginning to question whether this new work measured up to his past.
I mean, if you compare Picasso's Women of Algiers with Delacroix's, I mean, Picasso's are simply ludicrous, like cartoon versions of great masterpieces. And because he still had almost total command of his facility as a painter, they still command a certain presence. But compared to his own best work and to the great paintings that he was using as a subject matter, they're pathetic.
By this time, the center of the art world had shifted. It was no longer Paris. The artists of the New York school, Mark Rothko, Willem de Kooning, and Jackson Pollock, were sending shockwaves across the Atlantic. Nevertheless, Picasso's influence on the New York artists was inescapable.
I can remember Pollock, the first show in London. It was in the 50s, late 50s. I saw it. What was exciting was it looked as though it was the first new art that was un-Picasso-esque for 40 or 50 years. It turns out it wasn't really.
The world had changed around Picasso in so many ways. And whereas earlier he had been inspired by such changes, now he wanted to retreat. He had always thrived on attention. But now, with Jacqueline as his gatekeeper, Picasso began to turn inward, to examine his art, his past, and to face the inevitable alone.
Breakfast with the Arts will continue in a moment with Pablo Picasso, A Primitive Soul.
Oh, ball breath. You could try covering it up with eau de toilette, but isn't it better to kill the germs that cause the odors? Clorox Automatic. It's like a germ-killing gargle every time you flush.
I left the truck unlocked. No, his ears were a bit bigger and the nose was longer. Next thing I knew, the truck was gone.
This him, sir?
Yeah, that's him. That's the guy.
Can't get enough peanuts? Get a Payday. Sweet caramel and tons of salty peanuts.
The new 255 horsepower Nissan Maxima.
I have asthma. I also have 2 brothers and a dog, Max, and friends I hang out with. I don't want to miss out because of my asthma.
Singulair can help you control your child's asthma. Singulair is different from many daily inhaled controllers. It's not a steroid, and it's a once-a-day cherry chewable tablet that can help control your child's asthma for a full 24 hours. Singulair is available for children 2 years and older, and also for adults. Singulair should not be used to treat acute asthma attacks. Your child should continue taking their other asthma medicines unless their doctor tells you to stop or change the dose. If symptoms get worse, contact your child's doctor at once. Side effects are generally mild and vary by age and may include headache, flu, runny nose, and ear infection. For more information about Singulair, ask your child's doctor. And ask about adding once-a-day Singulair. Singulair, asthma control that can help you both breathe easier.
Hi, I'm George Foreman, and this is my lean, mean, fat-reducing grilling machine. It grills delicious food in a healthy way fast. And now I've teamed up with the folks at Sears to make my grill better than ever. We've added this unique, handy warming lid, so preparing tasty meals is even easier.
George Foreman's grill cooks from both sides at once. It cuts most cooking times in half. The slanted grill channels fat and grease away from food. The floating hinge lets me grill evenly. Seared on the outside, moist and flavorful inside. Meanwhile, the lid warms rolls, buns, biscuits, tortillas, even pita bread. And the double-coated non-stick surface makes cleanup a breeze. The grill's even better now, with 30% more grilling space. I can cook enough for everyone.
I'm so proud of it, I put my name on it. And because it's from Sears, you know your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back.
Call now to order the new George Foreman grilling machine with warming lid. 1-800-801-6677.
Breakfast with the Arts continues now with Pablo Picasso, A Primitive Soul.
On March 2nd, 1961, at the age of 79, Picasso exchanged marriage vows for the second time. His bride was 35-year-old Jacqueline Roque, his devoted protector for the past 8 years. Picasso was a living legend, but even at 80, the idea of resting on his laurels terrified him. He continued to innovate. He invented an entirely new technique on these sheet metal sculptures, and another entirely new method in the medium of lithography. Jacqueline kept Picasso in extreme isolation. In time, he withdrew even from his own children.
From one day to the next, I mean, basically. There was no explanation, so to this day, we still don't know exactly what happened.
Soon, when Picasso's friends called, they were turned away as well.
Jacqueline refused a lot of Picasso's friends. All of my friends went through it. She closed the door to a lot of things, to a lot of people.
Then, in 1964, Picasso's former lover, Françoise Gillot, the mother of his children, Claude and Paloma, published her memoir, Life with Picasso. He felt betrayed and tried to halt the publication. But the book became a bestseller. After the book, Picasso's health began to fail. All at once, in 1965, when he was 84, he had ulcers, gallbladder trouble, and prostate problems. In great secrecy, he was admitted to a Paris hospital to have his prostate removed. In spite of the risk that he could die in surgery, he refused to write a will.
Picasso couldn't write a will. He couldn't bring himself to write a will because that would involve recognizing the fact of his own death.
Picasso was anxious to show that he had not lost his ability to create. In a matter of months, he was back at work. Picasso began an elaborate exploration of his own mind, his past, his lovers, and his art. As he approached his 91st birthday, Picasso began a self-portrait. He had made self-portraits at every phase of his life. The wide-eyed boy, the cocksure 20-year-old, the depressed married man. But that spring of 1972, he confronted the subject that terrified him most, his own death.
He took me in one of his studios, a little room, and in the middle of the room there was an armchair. This time in the armchair was a big drawing, placed like a human being. It was placed in the armchair alone. And it was the drawing when he stares at his death. It was clear for me. And at the time we both stay silent. And he told me, I think that here I have something.
That fall, Picasso was hospitalized for pulmonary congestion. He didn't want anyone to know. Jacqueline nervously ministered to his every need, insisting to everyone that everything was fine. He remained virtually bedridden through the winter. On April 5, 1973, Jacqueline called Picasso's cardiologist. By now, every breath was a struggle. On April 8th, Picasso died, with Jacqueline, as ever, by his side. His son, Pablo, came to the burial, and a handful of friends. But everyone else in the family was turned away.
On the day of the funeral, it snowed. They kicked us out because, of course, Jacqueline said no. Paulo said no. So we were left outside.
Picasso's death set off a series of tragic repercussions within his family. On the day of the funeral, Paulo's son Pablito was among those turned away. Just 2 days later, Pablito drank a container of chlorine bleach. He survived this attempt at suicide, but his digestive organs were destroyed and he died 3 months later. 2 years after, Pablito's father, Pablo, Picasso's only legitimate child, died at the age of 55 from complications of heavy alcohol use. In 1977, Picasso's lover, Marie-Thérèse, committed suicide, but she would not be the last. Picasso's death was painful for all his loved ones, but his widow, Jacqueline, never recovered from the loss of the man who had become her master.
She was completely and utterly destroyed by Picasso's death. She was popping pills, drinking an enormous amount, in a state of total nervous collapse. It was painful and difficult, and every time she went through the hall, there was a huge photograph of Picasso, she would say, "Bonjour, Monseigneur. Ah, je t'adore, Monseigneur."
On October 15, 1986, Jacqueline Picasso committed suicide. She was 60 years old. Picasso's character was both alluring and repellent, as was, many people felt, his art. There is a struggle between the hideous and the beautiful in the work and life of Pablo Picasso. It is the links between his life and his art that leave an endless mystery for generations to come.
If you want to look at Picasso's character, you know, he comes through as a rather ordinary man of the middle with a lot of bad streaks. You look at his art, and he's one of the 2 or 3 greatest artists who ever lived. I'll accept that. You know, let me have the great artist, and I'll put up with the rest.
Picasso changed everything about art. He broke down centuries of tradition. He forged new links between the ancient world and the modern. And he left a colossal body of work that embodies all the wrenching contradictions of modern life. The art of the 20th century will forever be remembered for the radical new ways Pablo Picasso taught us to see.
As you heard, Barcelona's brothel scene made a lasting impression on Picasso. Now Picasso Erotique, an unprecedented show of 350 of the artist's works dealing specifically with erotic themes, is on display at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. Included is this early crayon drawing, The Rape, done when Picasso was only 19. Among the oil paintings is Woman in a Red Armchair from 1932. Figures at the Seashore is a work in oil and charcoal on canvas, also from 1932. And this colored heliograph with ink of a woman eating an apple dates from 1957. Picasso Erotique at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts runs now through September 16th. The exhibit travels next to the Picasso Museum in Barcelona. Up next, conductor Pablo Yarvi is here to tell us about his new post as director of the Cincinnati Symphony. Don't go away.
Maybe every once in a while, even feng shui could use a little help. Go ahead. Invite the Joneses over for dinner.
The 240 horsepower Nissan Pathfinder.
We're giving away $1,000 in free cruise travel to the next 200 callers. Just list your timeshare, campground, land, or vacation home for sale or rent. You'll get cash at closing, plus $1,000 in free cruise travel. Call 1-800-515-4441.
Sell your timeshare or vacation property. Get cash at closing, plus $1,000 in free cruise travel. For free information, call 1-800-515-4441. Call now.
Every Saturday in September, one click will pick the biography you want to watch. So log on to biography.com. Choose a wise guy, a country singer, a rock star, and call the shots. Viewers' Choice Saturdays on Biography. Saturdays in September on A&E.
AT&T Broadband. Gardening.
Get ready for on-the-job training.
The yard has to be mowed, the beds have to be weeded, mulch has to be spread, and as if all that weren't enough, there's planting to do.
Learn from a true plant pro.
Then tell me how your garden grows.
Watch Gardening by the Yard on HGTV and AT&T Broadband. Serving the greater Portland area, we're AT&T Broadband.
Rich, powerful, and single.
Got everything I need.
Credit to capitalism, Jack. But fate is about to show him the man he could have been.
Come on, Dad, get up.
What's happening to me?
This is a glimpse.
How did I get here? This isn't my house. You're not my wife? What?
Nicolas Cage.
I'm not a dad.
Order the Family Man.
I'm in the middle of a deal.
On In Demand Pay-Per-View.
Same as it ever
The movies you want to see delivered home.